Want to turn our attention to some international news, and I want to put up this tweet right now from Pope Francis. Of course, he was hospitalized recently with a respiratory infection. He says, quote, "I am touched by the many messages received in these hours. I express my gratitude for the closeness and prayer." We're going to be joined now on the ground in Milan, Italy by Fox News correspondent Amy Kellogg. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. What are we hearing about Pope Francis, and is he being close to being released from the hospital following that infection?
Hi, Andy. We did just get an update from the Vatican, and he has infectious bronchitis. He has been given a course of intravenous antibiotics, to which he's responding well, they say. So the word is that he is likely to be released within a few days. That is also what we understood yesterday, to be quite honest, but we're on track as far as we know, so that's very good news. He's worked a little bit, he's read the newspapers, had some breakfast. We haven't actually seen him or heard from him other than that tweet, Andy, but apparently this is not cause for alarm at this point. And hopefully never, or not in the near future anyway. So that's what we're hoping, is that he will be out in the next few days. What's not clear is how involved he will be in Holy Week celebrations, Andy.
Yeah, that is a big question, because it is right on the edge of this Palm Sunday, Holy Week, and then heading into Easter. Will that change a little bit? Maybe who will step in his place if that does happen, if he's unable to perform some of these sermons, some of these masses as well? What will potentially happen?
A couple of cardinals have been teed up for doing Palm Sunday and Easter, but it's not clear whether they were already on tap to be part of this. So I think it's still an open question whether or not Pope Francis can lead these masses or read these masses, or whether he'll be involved somehow in a lesser form. You know, maybe waving from the window, saying a few prayers, giving a blessing. You know that he will want very much to be a part of this. It's the most important week for Christians. So we are hoping that he will be at least somewhat involved, but there are certainly plenty of other cardinals and priests and Vatican insiders who can make sure it all goes very smoothly. Francis typically has an incredibly busy week from Thursday, when he goes often and washes the feet of prisoners, and then Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So we're just waiting to see. I think that given that it's kind of cold still, I mean, the days can be warm, but it can get cold in the evening. He's 86 years old, Andy. He lost most of one of his lungs to an infection when he was young. We've seen him in a wheelchair a lot. He's got some mobility issues. And he had some very serious colon surgery about a year and a half ago. So there's a fragility and there's age, and so people will want to protect him. But Wednesday he did his weekly audience, and he was bringing babies up onto the Pope mobile and acting just like he always does, appeared to be in very good health. So let's see, this may be just a momentary blip, Andy.
Yeah, and we always wish him the best, and certainly a potentially scary moment when you just hear the Pope being hospitalized with an infection, no matter how not serious it might be. But obviously him being in the hospital, give us a sense of what people there in Italy, near the Vatican, are kind of feeling, because when you hear this news, it's certainly cause for some concern, at least a little bit. Kind of what's the feeling around them, especially heading into Holy Week?
Yeah, there's a lot of concern and a lot of worry, and as you mentioned, Andy, he tweeted thanks for the prayers and the closeness he feels. People have been reaching out in different ways, and they are very concerned. And people who love this Pope, and there are many of them, are worried about his health and have always been worried about his health, because he, he's got some health issues. He's had some health issues for a long time. And when you see him in the wheelchair, you feel for him. And he's hinted over the years about resigning if he can't do his job anymore. But more recently, he seemed to have excluded that possibility. You know, Pope Emeritus Benedict passed away at the New Year, and there was some speculation that Francis wouldn't have ever thought of retiring when there were two popes on the scene effectively, and that Benedict's passing might give him more opportunity to reflect upon possibly hanging up his hat. But it doesn't seem that he wants to do that. He's had a really very busy year, or the last year was a very busy year, and even until now he's been traveling quite a lot. He's been to Africa, he's been to Kazakhstan, Canada, really on the road, very much for someone who's got mobility issues, and has been, just has been slowing down. He also has an upcoming trip to Hungary, I believe it is, and that, as it stands, is still on. Of course, things can change, but also Pope Francis, it's important to add at this very sensitive moment in our history, has been quite keen to get involved in trying to help broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, and the Russians have kind of pushed him back. He really wants to go to Moscow first, and that would be an incredible symbolic gesture, because the two churches, the Orthodox and the Catholic, have had a rift for centuries and centuries. So he'd like to do that and then go to Ukraine. So that's a dream for him, and I'm sure that dream is still very much alive. He's spoken out a lot about this war. He obviously he's a pacifist and doesn't like any wars and doesn't see any justification for them at all. So I think that part of his legacy is still very much active in his mind, and I don't think he's going to want to slow down, and people here certainly want to see him get better. And yes, it's a very poignant time, getting close to Easter, when families gather, people travel to Rome, and so people are watching this extremely closely. Andy.
Yes, thank you so much, Amy Kellogg. Like you were saying, a very notable figure at a very notable time in the history here. So certainly he has been so seminal for so many people, and just his words throughout his time as Pope. And of course, also with Pope Benedict, obviously the news coming just a few months ago, certainly hard for a lot of people, including Pope Francis. We appreciate your time here on Live Now from Fox, and obviously we wish the Pope the best in this recovery from that infection. We appreciate it.